Hello everyone. Today I'm going to go over what is on my garden to-do list for February. Now I know that my garden space is a little bit unique as I mostly grow annuals in containers. I do have more perennials though than I used to have, but I'm still going to go over my specific list, which I think will cross over to a lot of other gardeners in zone 6. But then I'll also go over more generic to-dos if you are gardening in the ground, just so if your setup is a little bit different than mine, you still know what to add to your list. But first, I want to go over 2 other garden related things before we jump into my task list. The first is magazines. So I was asked a really good question in the comments a couple of videos ago. Someone was asking for garden magazines that focus more on plants and less on like home and home decor, which I'm glad I'm not the only one because I used to subscribe to Better Homes and Gardens, which I still love, but I found that I was skipping through about half of it or maybe even a little bit more because I didn't really pay attention to anything that was home related or cooking, and I just went straight to the garden part. So that made me start thinking I should probably subscribe to magazines that are just focused on plants and gardens. So that's what I did, and I am currently subscribed to 4. So I have Fine Gardening, and this is actually a rooftop garden in Chicago. So I'm holding on to this magazine because I want to save that article. It's not mine, but it is really beautiful. I also have the English garden. Now, some of the things in here don't apply to me since my garden is not in England, but I love the style of the English garden, so that's why I have this one. And then 2 other ones that I don't happen to have any copies of with me are Garden Gate magazine and then Horticulture Magazine. So if you are looking for more garden-focused magazines, those are the ones I recommend, but also let me know in the comments any others that you subscribe to. The second thing I wanted to go over really quickly is tea related. Specifically mints. So this is my favorite tea combination I've discovered so far from the herbs in my garden. It is chocolate mint, banana mint, about 50-50 of each of those, and then a little bit of cacao powder and a splash of milk. I love flavored mints, and last year from Mountain Valley Growers, I ordered, I think 7 or 8 different flavors, one of each. I wanted to let you know, I just put in my mint order with them for this year. I placed it in January. They'll ship it out when it's ready to be planted. So I think I got mine in mid-May last year. But instead of trying to grow one of each, I'm focusing more just on my favorites. They were all good. I didn't dislike any of them, and I am trying to overwinter them in the greenhouse. But my absolute favorites are always chocolate mint, banana mint. To me, it tastes like, what are those candies called? It's a bunch of fruit, but the banana ones are always the best. Let me know if you can remember what the name of that is. They're hard candies. And then lavender mint I got because that is new to me and I like lavender flavored things. So those are the 3 I got. I got multiples of each of those. So if you want to get some flavored mints, I will link their website down below because they have the widest variety I have ever found. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into my list. Now, I would say if you are just getting started with gardening and you don't know your last frost date, go and look that up first because that is going to determine when you do a lot of other things in your garden. So your last frost date is an average expected date that you'll have your last frost. Now you can find this out online by going to the Farmer's Almanac website, entering in your city or your zip code. But I do want to say that when I look up my location, it does say our last frost date is April 17th. I don't think that's ever actually been true in the 38 years that I've lived in this climate. We always use Mother's Day, which is almost a month later. So I would actually say to ask your local garden centers if you aren't sure of when it's typically safe to move out your frost sensitive plants. Now the main reason to know that is to figure out when it's safe to move your plants outside and when to start your seeds indoors. I know there are a lot of people that are winter sowing outside in jugs. I will be doing some direct sowing next month as well, but I am currently not sowing any seeds. I still like having my downtime until March hits and then everything kind of explodes with the garden, which I can't believe that's a month away. I'm so excited, but I still want to have a little bit of cocooning winter time for myself. So I am not planting any seeds in February, but there are some seeds that you could plant if you are planning to grow certain flowers or certain crops. So first off, you can start your cool weather crops inside, like broccoli. I always sow my cool crops directly outside. It's just a lot easier, so I'll just toss them outside and let them grow. If you are also starting any cool season flowers, if you're starting any perennials or anything that has a really long days to maturity, so if you look at your seed packet and it says like 10 plus weeks ahead of your last frost, those I would potentially start in February. I don't think I have anything that's more than 10. I think yarrow is probably the earliest, and I'm going to start that in March anyway, because that works best with my schedule. But do make sure to go through all of your seed packets and figure out which ones might need to be planted a little bit early. But at least for me specifically, I'm not sowing any seeds in February. But that doesn't mean I'm not organizing all of my seeds. I still need to finish my seed schedule doc. Now, I did create a video showing how I use mine with a link to a template for you to use as well. The last frost date is what you input to calculate how many weeks beforehand you have to start your seeds, so that you at least know if you're starting your seeds early March, mid-March, whatever it might be. I will link that video down below. I will also link the spreadsheet down below. I still have not added my vegetables, and I need to do that. I have all of my flowers that I've ordered so far and none of my vegetables. So I need to get all of that organized. I want it done by the end of this month because, again, I'll start my seeds in March. I don't want to still be figuring out my schedule when we get into that month. I want to know it now. Another important thing to do while you are going through all of your seeds, well, one, make sure you have everything that you want to grow. If not, order them now. And two, see if there are any special requirements before you sow your seeds. Some seeds might need cold stratification for a couple weeks, so you might go to plant it and then realize you have to stick it in the fridge for a couple weeks, or they need to be soaked. Usually that's just like 12 to 24 hours, but just know these things ahead of time so that you can prepare properly for the days you actually want to start planting your seeds. Like I said, buy any extra seeds you want now. I have some more status right now in my Johnny seed cart. I forget what else I have in there. I'm going back and forth again on if I know I don't need any more seeds. I'm going back and forth on if I want any more seeds. But I do find that, I even start ordering seeds at the end of the previous year, but start ordering now so that things don't get sold out that you want, because once springtime comes, everyone is going to be ordering seeds. Along with organizing the seeds I want to start, I need to make sure I have everything that I need to actually start my seeds. Again, I have a video talking through everything that I use, and I will go through the process once I start my seeds next month. But I want to make sure that I have all the grow lights I need, that I have the rack that I need, that I have as many seed starting trays as I need, that you have seed starting mix, whatever it might be, because again, I don't want to go to start seeds in the middle of March and realize I need to go get some other items before I can actually start my seeds. So go through your list. Make sure you have everything. One thing I do tend to forget with seed starting is you do want to fertilize them. So make sure that you have a liquid fertilizer on hand to use for your seedlings as well. Now, I do have some perennials. They are all in pots, and I have been checking on them about once every 2 weeks in the garden. I have a few different places where I'm growing my perennials, and I will have a video coming out next, actually taking you around, showing you how I've been caring for them over winter. But I have some on the decks, some in the garage, and the main thing I'm checking for is to see if they need to be watered. Now, my issue is usually my plants getting too much water over winter and rotting, but they also can dry out. The ones in the garage aren't exposed to any snow or rain. So I need to make sure I am watering them throughout the winter so they don't die. So I've been going through, again, once every 2 weeks, seeing if the soil is dry. If it is, I water them. If it's not, I check 2 weeks later. Now, I will, in general, start planning where I'm going to place my annuals. I often do this, and then once I actually start getting things in the garden, ignore my plans, but at least I want to get an idea of which plants are going on the back, roughly how many, which ones are going on the front, roughly how many, the new garage deck, and roughly how many, so that I am starting an adequate number of seeds. I always end up starting extra just in case, but I want to make sure that I'm not missing some places. So if I know I want, 5 different asters out here, but also 2 more for the garage deck, then I need to start 7. So just some general planning as far as different locations and then numbers of seedlings I need to start. Now, I did mention making sure I have all my items for seed starting, but I also like to take this time to make sure I have all the items I need for the garden. So last year I tried different hoses. I switched to flexible hoses. I want to make sure I have hoses for every deck, especially with the new garage deck, that I have timers for every deck, that I have all the containers I need. If I don't have that, I like to order that now, just again, so I have it on hand. I'm not running around during the busy time of garden season. So walk around your garden, make a list of what you need, see what you have, see what you don't. Again, that way you are prepared. Next is one I should have done already, and that is pay more attention to my houseplants. So I started out crazy about houseplants. And then I got space to garden, and that's where my focus went. So my houseplants basically only get watered from March to October. Like, I'm not doing any other checking for pests. I fertilize if I remember, barely any pruning. So that's what I should have been doing over the winter. I did a little bit on the plants that really looked like they need it, but I need to go around, fertilize, prune, just make sure things are in good shape for the next stretch of time that I will be ignoring them. I also think I'm going to do a houseplant tour. Now, like I said, I did kind of go from being addicted to houseplants, but as the garden's taken more of my attention, I've gone and focused on, well, fewer plants, but also more low maintenance plants. So I will do, before the garden season starts, a houseplant tour for you. Now, last isn't specific to my garden, but it is specific to local gardens. I will be going to the Chicago Botanic Garden and 2 conservatories that are located in Chicago. And if you are here or nearby and you are tired of cold weather and not seeing the color green outside, I highly recommend going to one of these 3 locations. So first is the Chicago Botanic Garden, which is technically in Glencoe, so it's in a suburb, but they are having an orchid show, which they have every year. It goes from, I have the dates here, February 8th to March 23rd. Yes, I will be going. Yes, I will be taking you along with me. But for me, that's always a sign that spring is very, very near once the orchid show is happening. So I'm very excited for that. You basically walk through the different greenhouses that they have. They have so many orchids on display. And then I'm pretty sure, although I've never purchased, but I think at the end of the show, they have a big sale on all of the orchids that they were displaying. So make sure to check that out. I'll link down the pages for all these events below. Now, the 2 conservatories I've been to, and I'm sure there's more that I've forgotten about, but it's Lincoln Park Conservatory, which is right next to Lincoln Park Zoo, and Garfield Park Conservatory. If you could only go to one, I would recommend Garfield Park because it is huge. It's huge, it's warm, it's full of birds and tropical plants and fish, and it's just so much fun. So I always like to go there just to remember what it's like to be warm and see plants. If you only had time for one, Garfield Park, if you have time for both, do both and then walk through the zoo. But there are spring shows happening there. Each of their spring flower shows are running from February 12th to May 11th. So you have plenty of time to go see those. But again, once it gets warm outside, I have less interest of going in conservatories versus when it's cold outside. All of that event information will be down below, so check that out if you are in the area. I will be going to all of them. So that is my list of what I plan to do this February in my container garden, Zone 6A. I'm now on the Chicago Botanic website and I'll read through their recommendations. Most of these don't apply to me, but some of them might, and if I stop killing my perennials over winter, I might have more of these tasks to do. So first on their list, it says de-ice with caution. So, I mean, we do that on our sidewalks, de-ice any walkways, driveways. I'm typically, well, right now it's 40 degrees, so it's super nice outside, but I'm typically not on my decks. If it's icy, it just melts on its own, so I don't have to worry about that. Shoveling, don't really do that except for the sidewalk. Pruning tips, so it says, weather permitting, late February is an ideal time to heavily prune large woody plants that are fully dormant. The absence of leaves on deciduous trees also makes it easier to see their branching structure. I don't have any large woody plants. Most of my plants are very, very tiny, and I don't even know if I'm going to do barely any pruning. I mean, if there's a broken branch, I might prune it. I do cut my raspberries back, but I'll be doing that in March, and again, take you along with me. But for me, I'm not pruning in February, but this is a really good time to prune some of those woody plants. Next is inspect trees for overwintering pests. I mean, I have 2 evergreens up here. All of my other fruit trees are in the garage and they're very tiny. I will look at them once it gets a little bit warmer and see if they look okay or not, see if there's any insects. But again, I'm not dealing with a bunch of trees that are mature in my garden, so not usually something I do, but don't worry. I get a lot of pests up here anyways. They do have starting seeds indoors. They say start seeds early for spring annuals such as delphinium, snapdragon, pansies. For me, most of my spring flowers I do just buy from a garden center. As soon as the pansies are available, I go and grab them because I'm not planting enough to really need to use seeds. And that way I just get immediate bright color in my garden. But if you are planning to start spring annuals, cool weather annuals from seed, you'll probably want to be starting them very soon. And then it says winter TLC for houseplants, which yes, I know. And then lastly, it says late February is a great month to force indoor blooms from branches. So if you have branches with the buds that are swelling, you can cut the branch off, put it in water, and then the buds will flower. I did this once. It wasn't really like worth it for me. Like, it was fine, but it wasn't something I loved doing, but it could have just been the type of tree that I chose. So I will link a video, if I can find one down below. There should be a video on how to force buds if you want to. It can be a nice way to add some flowers, but I just grabbed some from the grocery store for the winter, and then I have all summer with my own flowers. So that was everything on the Botanic Gardens list. Let me know what else is on your list below, just in case either I need to add something to my list, or if you are in different growing zones, you're very likely going to be doing different things. So let me know down in the comments, and then I will see you in the next video where I will take you around into my garden and show you all the perennials that I'm overwintering. Bye.